Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today's is an important one. It really is, because I would say 90% of anglers out there don't realize this about their rods, and it's potentially the most important thing about the rod. And for some reason, the majority of rod manufacturers either neglect to do this on purpose, they don't take the time to do it, or they don't want to put the expense towards doing it. But in a matter of seconds, they could easily improve the performance of their rod. And I don't know why they don't do it. I really don't. So what I'm talking about is the spine of the rod. Rod blanks literally have a spine. It's like the same thing we have, right? It's like the backbone of the rod. It's what limits the blank from twisting. It's what gives the rod power. It's what allows the rod to properly cast. And if you don't build on the spine or recognize where the spine is, you're going to get yourself into trouble and the rod's not going to perform properly. It's one thing that custom rod builders absolutely cringe over, because the majority of rods that people are spending big bucks for in the store are not properly having the spine identified, and therefore the guides are not being built on the spine or, regarding where the spine is. So that's what I want to do today. I'm going to tell you why it's important. I'm going to show you how you can identify the spine, either using an actual spine finder like the CRB one, or just using your hand and rolling it on a smooth surface. Very basic, takes literally seconds to do, and it is so crucial. And there's a lot of reasons why it's so important. If I've got, you get a blank, a lot of people don't even realize when you build rods, what comes. This is a MHX, this is a CB 906 blank. It literally comes in just a blank rod. There is nothing on it, no components whatsoever. Everything has to be put onto this. And therefore, finding the spine of this blank is important, because everything's going to be dictated from that. When you put the reel seat on, you want your reel to be positioned in a manner that lines up with the spine. All of your guides are going to go on in a position based on where the spine is at. And it's different for a spinning rod versus a bait casting rod, and I'll mention that later on. But if you were to think of the spine of this rod as the spine of your backbone, and I'm going to put this into terms as my wife would say, because she's a chiropractor. So you get the best performance out of your body when your spine is in alignment. The rod performs the best when the spine of the rod is in alignment as well. And what that spine does is it keeps the rod in the proper position. So one of the things it does is it gives it strength. So if you don't build on that spine, the rod's going to want to twist more. And the more twist you have in a rod, say when you're fighting a fish or you go to make a cast, the weaker it's going to get, and therefore the potential that it could break easier is there. But most importantly, what happens, just like with the human spine, if I twist, the spine wants to pull you back into alignment, right? The same thing happens here. If you don't build, you put your guides in accordance with the spine, and you say you put it on the side of the blank, when you go to cast, every time you load that rod up and put bend in it, the spine is pulling it back into alignment. And what that's going to do then is create a twist when you go to cast, because you're not on the spine or built in accordance with the spine. So when you load your rod up, if it's making a cast and the rod loads up, if you're fighting a fish, if it's when you're working a bait, in all of those instances, the rod is going to be twisting at that point, because you're not built in accordance with the spine. So what does that twisting do? Like I said, it can potentially weaken your rod. If you have too much twist, you could potentially hurt the components or lead to an effect on the longevity of your rod, because you're going to have some wear and tear on where your guides are at, just because there's more twists. So some of your threadings could undone. You might have more issue with guides falling out. That's a major issue, because if you have more twists, what's going to happen is the epoxy around the guides can crack. Therefore, your running guides can come out. But the most important thing is, when you go to make a cast, if your rod blank twists a little bit on the cast, and it doesn't take much, guys, I'm talking a quarter of a turn even. If you realize a quarter of a turn means your guides went from being here to here, That's a big difference. So when you go to make a cast and your rod loads up, if you're not built in accordance with that spine, the rod blank is going to twist. You go to make a cast, two things are going to happen. You're going to get a lot less distance because now when your line is going through the guides, you have more friction on the guides, which is slowing your line down, which is creating less casting distance, greater likelihood of backlashes. And more importantly, your casting accuracy is going to be off because now instead of your line coming through the guides in a straight manner, there's twist and your line is going to be twisting as it goes through those guides, which is going to make it a lot harder to get your correct casting accuracy. So those are very, very important things. You'll have issues as well if you're fighting fish. If you're just using a bait that's got some good pull on it, you're not going to get the same performance out of it. And you're potentially going to have your line rubbing on the blank as you're fighting a fish, or as you're going to make a cast. You get more of your line caught around your guides. Issues like that happen because the rod wasn't built properly. It's such a simple thing. So what I want to do is I want to show you the two manners to go ahead and do this using the CRB spine finder as well as just using your hand. I put a piece of tape on here. This is going to allow me to mark the spine. And when well, let's just show you. I'm going to walk you through the CRB spine finder here. So I'm going to take my blank, slide it into the spine finder. This has got bearings on the inside of it. So when I spin the blank, it's spinning the bearings, which is going to find the spine. So I take my right hand, apply pressure to the end of the rod, not all the way at the tip, but just, 2/3 of the way. I'm going to take my left rod and I'm going to just go ahead and spin the blank until I feel it snap into position. And a lot of blanks will actually have two spines. In this case, I feel two on this one. There's one that I feel about right here, and then there's one that's right here where I've already put a little bit of a mark. What it's going to do is keep snapping in. So you can see, here, I'll make that a little darker. So I've got my mark there. I'm just going to spin it, and you'll see that that's where the rod wants to snap in. Like I could spin it a little bit to the right, let go, and the rod will come back. I spin a little bit to the left and let go, and it'll come back. It'll snap right in. So that's the spine right there that I've identified. In this case, if this is a bait casting rod, I want to build the guides on the top. If it's a spinning rod, because the reel seat's going to be on the bottom, I'm going to build the guides on the reverse side on the bottom of that curve. All right, so the other way to do it without a spine finder is just to take the blank, put it on a flat surface like this. You're going to put your hand on the midsection, put your other hand and apply upward pressure. And I'm just going to roll my right hand. So when I roll my right hand, you can see I've got that line here from where I marked it before. When I roll it now, because I'm applying pressure in the opposite fashion, before I was pushing down on the tip, now I'm pushing up on it, and I roll my hand, I will feel that snap into place right on the bottom. So now my blue line is the reverse because it's the reverse, but it's still showing in the same place. I don't know if you can see it, but it like snaps right into place, right? When I pull up, right down, it just snaps right in. It just rolls right into that position. So that's all it takes. It's not hard to identify where the spine is, but it makes a crucial distance in rod performance. I really don't know why we don't see rod manufacturers doing it, but the majority of the rod blanks I pick up in the store, I can tell you very quickly, are not built on the spine, and they should be. It makes a big, big difference in the performance of the rod, and it's something that as a custom rod builder I'm able to do, and I take for granted at this point. But I can tell you when I pick up somebody else's rods and I'm in their boat using their equipment, very quickly I notice the difference. So if you have the potential to build your own rods and the equipment to do it, don't miss out on finding the spine. It's crucial. It really does make a difference. In either case, even if you build on the wrong side of the spine, so if you didn't, put the spinning rod on the inside of the curve, it's still better knowing exactly where that spine is, because you're either on top of it or underneath it, and that's the two best positions to be in. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Simple video. If you're looking to pick up a spine finder, go over to mudhole.com. They've got them there. It's the CRB one. Check out their MHX blanks while you're there. Some of the best blanks on the market by far. And guys, don't forget about the spine. Take care of it.